My dear brother Don, who is sadly no longer with us, owned wine bars in London for many, many years. Then we lived in the south of France, not a bad place to retire to. Anyway, there is a point of the story. He used to come to Australia quite a lot because he bought a lot of Australian wine. In fact, he was responsible for a big part of the push in England. Anyway, that's digressing. I can remember him coming once and he says, his language was always a bit bad, so I won't drop the magic word. I was going to say the Gordon Ramsay word. I won't do that. But anyway, he came in and he says, "What the F is a pot and a Parma?" Because all the pubs in those days, and they still do to a certain extent, had on the sign outside, pot and Parma, you know, for $5 or $10 or whatever they cost. And he couldn't work out what a pot and a Parma was. I did tell him. Anyway, he said, "Well, I must try one." I said, "Are you that brave?" Anyway, he did try one. And I'm sure he didn't pop his mustard seeds just like I have. But you're supposed to toast them, which I've done. So there's 1/4 tablespoon of mustard seeds, and I'm going to throw in a can of diced tomatoes. I don't think you should cook the mustard seeds as long as I have, because they get a bit bitter. Anyway, so he went and had his pot and Parma, and he said, "Do people really eat that?" He wasn't very keen on it. I was not terribly keen on it. I have to be very honest, all right? Wasn't my favourite thing, but you know, people love it, so I suppose what can you say? And I must admit, I'm making a sort of a Parma sandwich today, which is actually very nice. A lot better than the Parma, but I am serving Carlton Draft with it, so I'm doing the right thing. Now, to that I've just added 70.5 grams of julienne of ginger. I've also got a couple of tablespoons of palm sugar, which I've shaved. Now, just to tell you what I'm making a tomato jam to go with this. I knew there was a reason that I was doing this. Sorry guys, I got sidetracked. So I'm making a tomato jam because I'm making a bit of a special Parma SANGA. And to that I add a tablespoon of fish sauce. I also add a tablespoon of sambal oelek, so it's got a bit of a kick to it. 2 tablespoons of red wine vinegar. A couple of good cloves of garlic to go in there as well. About a 1/2 cup of veggie stock. My wife's beautiful veggie stock, which she does so well. Also a little bit of salt. Don't do any pepper at this stage, purely and simply because you've got that sambal. Right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cook that, and I'm going to have a taste in a minute, just to make sure that I've got all the flavours happening. And I'm going to cook that for about 10 or 15 minutes until it's thick and fragrant. But I will just taste it now. I know this is early, but just to make sure I've got everything in it. Oh, that's going to be good. It's got a nice kick to it. I've got some crumb tenderloins. Now, they're the back fillets. You can get them from your poulterer, no problem at all. And I've just crumbed them. Now, you know how to crumb them. Egg wash, flour, and in the panko crumbs, I've put a little bit of parmesan. So I'm getting all fancy pants today. And when we come back, we'll think about frying those as well. All right, I'm doing all right so far, aren't I? Don't know whether my brother will be very impressed, but still, who knows? Cheers. Right, and I've got a Vietnamese roll here, because I like them because they're crusty on the outside, but they're made with rice flour, so they're actually nice and soft inside. And I've got some ham. I actually there was years ago, which show? I think it was Huey's Cooking Adventures. There were these guys called the Parma Boys, and they did this search around Australia for the best Parma, and they took me to see it, and it was actually quite funny because the girl cooked it. Yeah, of course, you know, if you like Parmas, it was pretty darn good. You know, it hung either side of the plate, which seems to be half the thing, and had 4 million chips, and you know, the piece of chicken was about that big. You know, all the good things, all the things you're supposed to. And I'm just talking while I put that in the... I suppose if you're talking about a genuine old-fashioned Parma, it was pretty good. So I decided to make my version for the barflies. And what I did was I got some beautiful free-range chicken, which was lovely, as you would. And I pan-fried it in olive oil. And I made a lovely tomato sauce, you know, fresh tomatoes, vine-ripened, nice basil in it there, and a little bit of sambal oelek just to give it a bit of a kick. And I made some hand-cut chips and everything. And this is all very nice. And I grated some English cheddar. They hated it. It was far too classy for them, and it was too small because the chicken was about this big. The tomato sauce was fresh, they weren't used to that. So anyway, so I thought I'll blow that, so I went back to drinking my Chardonnay. I thought, so, my Parma sandwich. What I've done here is I've just put some olive oil in a non-stick pan. Put these in, I always do extra. Well, I better bring over the tomato jam just to show you how thick it is, all right? And we'll have a little bit of a taste. Obviously you could use this hot, cold, warm, whatever you like. This is hot, because I'm in a bit of a hurry. My friends, can I tell you, you wouldn't know, I might be lying to you, but that is absolutely bloody brilliant. Brilliant. Ah, just got a little kick to it. Nice and tomatoey, the ginger comes out. The chicken's looking pretty good, isn't it? But I do think I need a little bit more olive oil. And do cook it in olive oil. Makes all the difference. And I've got some chips that I'm going to throw in too. I'm showing off today. I've got my deep fryer up the back. I've got Carlton Draft because I feel that if I'm going to do a Parma, you have to do a traditional beer. Actually, I must tell you a story. My favourite pub in the country, which is at the Euroa Hotel, which is owned by my mates, the Marnes and Murphy family. I was talking to some of the people in the public bar one day, and we were talking about the new trend for the craft beers. And I love that this guy, I think he's been sitting on the corner seat for 100 years, and he said to me, he said, I quite like those craft beers. He said, but I have trouble drinking more than 6 of them. Right. So the moral of the story is drink Carlton Draft. The other secret that I'm going to tell you about, McCain's chips, their frozen chips are by far the best, but do yourself a favour, cook them from frozen. Don't thaw them. So I've got some beer battered pub style steak cut. I don't know what any of that means. So when we're ready to go, I'll fry some of those. All right. All right, guys, everything's looking good. Oh, that sounds good. Can you hear that? It's crispy and crunchy and all the good things. Now, as much or as little of this as you like. Just one baby cos leaf and some Kewpie mayonnaise. Sort of like a hot dog, isn't it? All right. And I'm not being paid by McCain's, guys. It's just I've had a lot of restaurants over the years where I've sold fries and I've always used McCain's because they're the best. All right, one last thing. Make my brother happy. My Carlton Draft. And what we've got there is my famous Parma SANGA. I wonder whether the barflies would like that. I'll try it next time I go to the Seven Creeks Hotel in Euroa. I'll cook it for the barflies. I might sort of give it the flick. But anyway, I'll then eat it myself. Cheers, guys. Guys, to show your support for my channel and to keep in the loop, subscribe. It's easy to do, and don't forget, it's free. Okay, cheers.